Okay, Emmy fans, it is Michelle Williams, who is overdue for a peer group award. Come on, Hollywood, versus Patricia Arquette, who has swept the Derby so far in this race for Best TV, Movie, Mini, or Actress. Who's going to win? I'm Tom O'Neill of Gold Derby here with Joyce Eng, Daniel Montgomery, Susan Wloszczyna, and we're going to get to the bottom of this. Susan, you first. Patricia Arquette has won already for this role the Golden Globe, the SAG Award, Critics' Choice, and she was out front initially in our predictions and odds at Gold Derby. But boy, she has now, Michelle Williams has pulled ahead, just counting the experts' predictions, 13 for Michelle, 9 for Arquette. Is this finally Michelle's? And let's explain too. Michelle's never won an Oscar, never won a Golden. She won a Golden Globe, but she hasn't won SAG Award. She hasn't won an Emmy. In other words, her peers.
Well, this is her second time fulfilling the role of a Hollywood legend, because she was great in Maryland.
Yeah, she won the Globe.
Right. But I think this is someone that people don't know. And she is filling in the blanks in her life, and so beautifully. And what I love is, Bob Fosse, the other half of the equation. I mean, he himself made a movie about his life. It was kind of semi-autobiographical.
All that jazz. Yeah.
But people know about his flaws and how he popped pills and drinking and womanizing and just, basically, killed himself to be a showbiz legend. But when Verdon, back in the day, if you knew anything about Broadway back then
she was queen.
She was wonderful. But she's working with material that isn't familiar, and she's got to do a lot of the effort of making her compelling, because we don't already think that of her. A lot of people who are watching this. But, the fact that both she and Sam Rockwell pull off just the choreography so well, and that, you don't think of them as musical stars, but they act like it. I mean, she fulfills it perfectly. When you see her with the red hair, and she looks like Gwen Verdon without imitating her. It's not makeup. It's not, she's inhabiting her. And what I like about it is that as much as she's abused by her husband and used for her talent and her ideas without getting credit, she also isn't a saint, And I think too much you have the long suffering, wife and all that. And she's not that. She stands her ground against them, and she wants to do Chicago on Broadway, and damn it, they're going to do it. And if it kills them, so be it. And I love that, And she also has this one song she sings, oh, I'm going places, whatever, that is so sad because everything is like falling apart. He has Anne Reiking, a younger actress, to be his new paramour, and she has this other guy, but they're never, they never divorce. They're never going to leave each other, because it's more than just a marriage. And it's just such, an interesting combination of emotions being played out, on top of having the glitz of a showbiz backdrop. I mean, it's just such a perfect role for her. And I was a little skeptical before seeing it, because I never saw her as a singer, dancer, whatever, but she nails it every time. It's perfect. So I think, yes, Patricia Arquette, I like her. She's a great actress too, but she has an Oscar, so.
She has an Emmy. Yeah.
She has some Emmys, but I think I feel more compelled to pick Michelle, just because this is a rare chance for her to do this, but not just in movies, but on a really well-produced show that, really does put her, one-on-one with her partner in showbiz. So I just think it's hers to lose.
Joyce, why Michelle now?
So I initially had Michelle in third before the show even premiered, and because it was like Patty and Amy Adams for Sharp Objects. And then as I watched the screeners, they only released like 4 or 5 episodes at first. I was like, Michelle is really good, but I don't know if she can beat Patricia. But I still moved up to 2. And then after the screener for the 7th episode, which is based around the production of Chicago, came in, I watched it. I was like, I'm not going to curse, but I was like, holy, like, I think she can actually win. And I moved her up. Like, she is so good in that episode. She's great. They're both great in the whole series, but she, like Susan said, she just becomes Gwen Verdon, and she embodies her so much. And like, if you haven't watched it yet, just listen to her voice, because Gwen Verdon had a very distinctive speaking voice, not just singing voice. Like, she has these like weird inflections, and Michelle did an interview with Vulture talking about like her process, and she worked with the dialect coach and talked to Nicole Verdon, their daughter, about how her mom spoke and stuff. And it's like she just totally becomes her. But in that episode, she sings and dances, and then she undergoes vocal cord surgery. And so she had to drop out of Chicago, and Liza Minnelli replaces her. And right after she has surgery, Bob calls her and says like, oh, Liza got better reviews. And obviously she's not supposed to speak, but then she lays into him without ever raising her voice because she just had surgery. And the way she like modulates the deterioration of her voice, like breaking down, it's so great. Like I can't do justice describing it. You just have to watch that scene. And then she said, like, she came up with that herself. Like, this is the kind of like narrative that people love to hear. Like, she came up with how to craft, her voice disappearing by herself. But it's just such a great piece of like technical ability that she did. And yeah, she's just great throughout the whole show. And if you were like online at all, like while the show was airing, like the show, like the ratings weren't on fire, like maybe like, OJ or like Big Little Lies or anything. But like there was, as the show aired, there was just so much like Twitter adoration for her and her performance, because I think people just finally saw like how good she is. And like Susan said, like no one like knows about Gwen Verdon right now. Like, she's a legend in the theater world, but like, like in the bigger sphere of entertainment, no one really knows about her. So, and that was like why they wanted to do the show, to like give her due. So it kind of like dovetailed with Michelle's arc too, since she's never been awarded by her peers. So it's like, you have someone who's underappreciated in our time, Gwen Verdon, finally getting recognized, and you can finally have Michelle, who's been under-rewarded in her time, getting recognized. So I moved her in first. Like I'm not confident that she'll win, but like I feel good about it. And like we said, like Patty already has an Oscar and an Emmy.
So flip this. What would be your Patty argument? Because Patty Arquette is. She's not a very sympathetic character in Dannemora, of course, but she has her vulnerable moments on screen.
Oh yeah, no, she's fantastic in that, and I love how she plays it so uninhibited. Like she just like doesn't. It's just there's no vanity in that performance. Yeah. Whereas like there is vanity in Michelle's, but like that's what the role demands. It's like hard to compare. But like Tilly, it's just she. That's like performance where it's like someone who just like understands that character so well. It like fits her like a glove, Like I feel like obviously it required a lot of work, but I feel like she almost understood it so well that it was effortless for her.
Oh, that's a bad argument. You could do better than that.
No, she's great in it, and there is effort in it, obviously, but I just think those two. Like I understand why people love Patty's, and I understand why people love Michelle. So I mean, honestly, I'm fine if either of them wins.
My question to you is, I'm going to be really rough on you here. Do you understand why she won the Globe?
Of course, yeah. That's exactly why she won the Globe over Amy Adams.
Okay. See, I don't think Sharp Objects. I tried to watch that. I like Amy Adams a lot, but I did not like that.
Our opinions don't matter, Susan. Who cares whether we like it or not?
I have to say that same episode where she loses her voice. I love these moments. These are my favorite moments in the show when they recreate how the genius came out between her and Bob Fosse, and they had to add a song to Chicago, and it's Nowadays, and it just is wonderful. I mean, you feel like you're really watching them sing it for the first time. And I covered the movie Chicago. It wasn't as goosebumpy as it was when she did it with whoever plays Cheetah Rivera. I don't know, but but it has so many facets to that performance. I don't deny Patricia.
There are so many facets to Arquette's performance. For example,
what are you picking?
Well, I'm predicting Michelle, but I think we're underestimating. I think we're all on.
I don't think anyone's underestimating Patty. If anything, people are underestimating Michelle because Patty's already won stuff. Like she's the favorite.
Right.
Right. Okay. So there is a lot of complexity to her role. I think one of the shining moments in this series is when she's tried to drug her husband. I mean, she's been terrible to her husband. She's cheated on him. All these horrible things. And then when she's being arrested by the police, she has this wonderfully poignant moment where she reminds him to take the dinner out of the oven. And I mean, just so wonderful and shading. And Joyce is so right. She inhabits the role. It doesn't look like acting at all. She's just, Daniel, pipe in here.
I still have Patricia in first place in my predictions. I wonder if it's also about just sort of exposure and attention. Patricia Arquette getting in this age of peak TV when there's so much television out there. The fact that Patricia Arquette already has a track record, having won the Golden Globe, SAG Award, Critics' Choice Award. When this show was just coming out, Dannemora had just happened. That gives her like momentum that and the show was well rated, so we know a lot of people watched it. The ratings for Fosse Burton haven't been as strong, and Gwen Verdon isn't as well known a quantity. So I think it really depends on how fully the Emmy voters embrace Fosse Burton as a whole. I can see that
which show will they relate to more?
I mean, certainly
show business themselves.
Certainly Fosse Verdon, but I mean, I'm not sure that's always going to be the deciding factor.
Yeah, but when it's at this level and the talent that went in behind the scenes, I mean, there are great people involved.
You can say that about Dan. Susan, you're rooting for Fosse Verdon. That is remember that's a pitfall for all of us.
Emotions are taking over.
Don't let that happen. We have to be callous, heartless pundits. And Daniel's got such a good point here, which is that, look, these three past wins in the minds of the voters, they've seen her on stage after stage after stage with that award. And often that just they automatically check her off. She's an Oscar winner. Her name begins with letter A. It's probably which helps on the ballot sometimes. But or actually, there may be reverse voting in this case too.
And then Williams might get a bump from that too.
Well, Emmy Adams and Patricia Arquette are back to back on the ballot.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Really good news for Emmy Adams because she could get like a little bit of a piggyback off for the nomination.
I still feel like they should have released Sharp Objects last year. Because last year the limited race was so much weaker, and she could have won that Emmy.
So you don't think she can win this time? What about this vote splitting we always talk about? Because the voting's different now than the old days.
I feel like everyone was ready. Like, it's just like Daniel said, like Patty has the momentum. Like, that's why she's the favorite. Because at the beginning of this year, everyone was ready to give Emmy Adams trophies for Sharp Objects. And it was Patty who won them. And then they just tied at Critics' Choice. So like Dannemora in general has more support we've seen than Sharp Objects. Like, it also won BGA for Ben Stiller over Jean-Marc Vallée. And also if you look at, we haven't talked about limited series yet, but like that race, like
let's do that. Keep going.
Sharp Objects, it's the only one that's fictional. Like everything else is based on a true story.
Well, let's talk about
our
that.
top 5.
Limited series, let's switch to that now because the current experts' votes are 7 for Dannemora, 7 for When They See Us. Fosse Burton has 3, and I think what it's got going for it is the names and the title. Often that's very, very, especially these big showbiz names, appealing to Emmy voters. And then the big surprise, Chernobyl is literally a rumbling volcano. It's about to blow or a nuclear blast. It is, there's this a momentum for that. Keep talking. Limited series. What's going on here?
I think everyone had Dannemora #1 because of how it did earlier this year, but then last month we just had 2 big ones drop, Chernobyl and When They See Us. So I think a lot of people haven't updated their prediction, so you should expect those two to move up more.
Lazy people are the
that's why the odds are skewed. Yeah, I have Chernobyl and When They See Us in my top 2, and like they're both really well done shows and successful in very different ways. And I think people kind of expected When They See Us to be good, you know, just because like people are more familiar with the story. Not that people are unfamiliar with Chernobyl, but it was just kind of like you said, it was like a sleeping giant. And HBO just premiered it on a Monday, like they're doing Monday programming now. And it just slowly builds. And if you watch it, it's so well done, so well directed. Even like the scenes that did not happen in real life, like at the trial, like you understand the decisions that Craig Mazin, the writer director, made. And it's the highest rated show on IMDb, which is also skewed, but still, it's like no one would have predicted that, you know?
Yeah, I think the thing with Chernobyl is that, like, When They See Us, we saw it coming, no pun intended, because it had the prestige of the story. It had Netflix. It had Ava DuVernay as a known quantity. She's already a 2-time Emmy winner for her documentary 13th, an Oscar nominee.
And Trump being part of it.
Yes, but Chernobyl, you know, people weren't really. It didn't look like it would necessarily. It didn't have the pedigree in the same obvious way that When They See Us does. So when it premiered, you know, it's like, oh, Jared Harris and Emily Watson and Stellan Skarsgård are in this, and those are prestigious actors, but not necessarily like Emmy like darling actors who get in all the time. Jared Harris had a nomination for Mad Men, but you know, so when people actually started watching it was when it started creeping up. It's like, oh, this is not just good. This is not just kind of a docudrama. This is really great. And both Chernobyl and When They See Us have the benefit of feeling very current, even though obviously they're both period stories.
And very important. Yeah,
taking place. Actually, the period stories both take place sort of like in the late 1980s. But, you know, and they both feel current because When They See Us, because of the Trump connection, he you know, advocated for the Central Park Five to be killed, to be executed. He still, you know, to this day says, oh, they were really guilty. You know, and so you have that aspect of it with, you know, the criminal justice system in general. And then Chernobyl is basically a climate change allegory where they're showing you this story about this environmental disaster that, you know, threatened literally an entire continent of lives. And, you know, you have this one government that's more concerned with saving face and maintaining the status quo than in actually fixing the problem. So in that way, both of those feel like right now kind of miniseries. And the fact that they came so late, it's just a matter of whether enough members of the Academy saw it, them in time to vote for them, because, you know, one is actually they're both around 5 hours long. So, you know, that's the only question is how late is too late to get the Emmy nominations.
But Susan, the Fosse Burton has, it's about show business. These people are in show business who are voting, and it has those names in the title. And sometimes if you're just checking off a ballot, your eye goes to that. This is a strong category with so many front runners. I think everybody but you and me are underestimating Fosse Burton, right, to win here.
Yeah, but again, my emotions are at play. What's the actual nominations? I'm going to, get down and
nominations. Yes, but do you think Fosse Burton can win?
Yes,
I see a path for that.
I think it's an outside chance. I would say if you think the names in the title are the key to success, I would rewind a couple of years to Feud, Betty and Joan.
There's no Big Little Lies this year, okay?
Yeah, I mean, true. There's no Big Little Lies, but Big Little Lies, I mean, I think Chernobyl and When They See Us both have the potential to be potentially that. Maybe not that big, but
yeah, this race is very crowded, and there's no obvious front runner like in past years. Like last year it was kind of weak, but Versace was default anyway. But this year it's so crowded, and there's gonna be a lot of worthy shows that don't make the cut. So
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of shows underperform and overperform in this category, and that's.
I will also say Fosse Burton has the currency of showing what men do to women who deserve equal credit in what they have achieved, and yet she allowed herself to be in the background until she couldn't anymore, and I think that echoes too, even though it's a showbiz couple, that it happens in life, and that's something that is of concern right now too. So even though it happens back in the 60s or 70s, I think that's something to hang on to.
Let's cover before we wrap here the actor race. Mahershala Ali, True Detective, recent double Oscar winner, all this stuff. We just had him as the inevitable front runner here forever, but we've got Sam Rockwell rising in the game, and we have poor Hugh Grant, who I say poor because he's been dismissed, I think, in the past as kind of a commercial actor, and those of us who've watched that show are like, "Whoa, this is a performance of a lifetime for him." And very, very powerful, and oddly sympathetic for the horrible things he does. But who wants to pile in here? Is this really a lock for Mahershala?
No.
No.
This is another crowded category, and I feel like everyone just put Mahershala in because that was the only thing that had aired mostly at that time, like True Detective, and he had just won the Oscar. But I think you need to watch out for both Jared Harris and Jarrell Jerome. Like, Jarrell's problem is just getting in.
Yeah, I feel like Jarrell, he's in the last episode. That's he sort of doesn't have the most screen time from episodes 1 through 3. Episode 4 is all him. It's a feature-length episode that could be up for Best TV Movie and win it, and he'd win Best Actor for that. So it's a matter of, are voters going to get to that episode soon enough to vote for it? And also, he doesn't have like the name recognition of a lot of his competitors who are like Oscar winners, Emmy winners already. So that's going to be his big challenge. But if he gets in, he could absolutely win, because we've seen in the last couple of years when they get in, these not as seasoned actors, these younger actors in these standout roles win. Riz Ahmed in The Night Of, and last year, Darren Criss in Versace. So I think Jarrell getting in is the worst thing that could happen to any of these other actors.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Susan, but you love Sam Rockwell. You think people are underestimating?
Yeah, number 2 for now. But
who's your number 1?
Well, Mahershala Ali, but I don't even know. I didn't watch. I only watched the first season of True Detective. I couldn't stand the Vince Vaughn one, so I didn't give this one a try. But to be honest, but I don't know. I didn't see people talking about it all that much.
Like it's a return. It's better than season 2, but it's just kind of been forgotten since it premiered in January, and it doesn't. I mean, the season 1 of True Detective also premiered in January, but it doesn't have the same heat because like it was still new back then with McConaughey and Woody.
Yeah, and there was the reconnaissance.
Yeah, and then they actually went drama that year instead of limited, and he lost. So
yeah. And I think because Mahershala, when we opened our prediction center, he was the most known quantity. He had just won the Oscar. He had all that heat coming off of him. He became sort of our front runner by default. And I think things slowing down in terms of the buzz for that show, I would not be 100% surprised if he wasn't nominated. I think there's a possibility. Again, this is an incredibly crowded category. You've got Jarrell Jerome and
but there are only 5 nominees. That's right. They're not.
There's 6 for acting.
There are.
So I think he's still in there, but I think he's vulnerable. This category is so crowded.
There's nowhere else, right? In the prediction center. I mean, nobody's.
Yeah, it's not really predicted for Best Limited Series anymore.
It was in the top 5 for a really long time, and then finally it fell out. Yeah, but Mahershala is still number 1 in actor. But yeah, you have like all these other like kind of like fringe contenders too, like Ian McShane for Deadwood, and like he's been nominated before, but like that movie was really Timothy Olyphant's movie. So, but I feel like he's on like the lower end of getting in there. And then you have like Benedict Cumberbatch, who they just love to nominate every year for Brexit.
And then
okay,
Peter
we're gonna wrap
Dinklage
up.
too. We talked about Peter Dinklage for Game of Thrones.
Yes,
he plays a real life showbiz figure. Hervé Villechans, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, from Fantasy Island, and that movie aired. So it feels like so long ago that I think a lot of people have forgotten it. But if Emmy voters love Dinklage so much, I wouldn't rule him out.
And they do, of course. Yeah, well, that's fascinating. Okay, it doesn't matter what we think out there. You guys watching and listening to this, it matters what you think, because we want your predictions in the Prediction Center at Gold Derby. They matter. They affect our odds. Everybody in Hollywood is watching them. They get angst and ulcers over these odds. Help us terrorize Hollywood. Your predictions matter. Thanks.